Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dominique Davis, also known as Brown and Bendy, and here on this channel we practice flexibility of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Before we get into things, please make sure that you are subscribed to the newsletter if you consider yourself a part of the Bendy bunch. This week we will be announcing some pretty cool stuff about the Flexible Minimalist, my clothing line that's coming out. So yeah, if you want to know about it, make sure you're following the newsletter. Yeah, okay. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about being consistently aggravated by ourselves. Noticing that our emotional state shifts randomly, even though there are no external factors that made us shift our emotional state. We were the factor. The call came from inside the house. Why does that happen? Why do we go through life consistently triggering ourselves, being moody, getting upset, and finding different reasons to be aggravated, even though there may be no external reason? I am going to say that there are a million and one reasons that we can trigger and aggravate ourselves, but I think the number one main reason that we can go from having a perfectly fine, beautiful, gorgeous day filled with gratitude and filled with contentment to being frustrated and upset with our circumstances and no longer able to resonate with gratitude, I think that we shift from one place to the other by consistently performing for other people and becoming afraid, getting into a fear mindset that the performance that we're putting on is not good enough for other people. When we ask ourselves, why don't I feel good enough? We have to honestly approach the subject matter from a place of honesty and look at our past experiences, especially in our childhood, and ask ourselves, what did I believe a successful adult would be? When I was a child, what did I think a successful adult looked like? And now that I'm an adult, what am I comparing myself to? Because I think that at some point we have to admit to ourselves that when we were kids, we had rose-colored glasses, and we don't have to be the adult that we thought we wanted to be when we were children. So when it comes to understanding that we don't feel good enough, we have to ask ourselves, who don't I feel good enough for? Do I not feel good enough for myself? Do I not feel good enough for God? Or do I not feel good enough for the people in my life? And do I not feel good enough for this imaginary idea of what a successful person is? Who am I not good enough for? I always have trouble saying this word. Existential dread. Existential dread. Existential dread. Okay, so dread that comes from out of nowhere. Have you ever had a great day, a good day, even a decent day? It doesn't have to be the best day, but then seemingly out of nowhere, this overwhelming feeling of panic comes over you, a feeling of hopelessness. And when you look into that feeling, you realize that you are dreading something. You are afraid of something that is to come. Has that happened to you? It used to happen to me all the time, being afraid of something for no reason. Literally, there's no reason for me to be afraid, but I feel dread in my body. I feel anxiety in my body, like something horrible is about to happen. When that does happen, I think that that's a good time to check in with ourselves and say, what area of my life do I feel like I'm not performing well in? I am not saying that, we can pass the buck and we can just be like, I'm perfect in every way and there's no way that I can improve. That's not what I'm encouraging, but I'm more so suggesting to start that we practice from a place of honesty and ask ourselves, what part of my life do I feel like I'm not performing well in, just to get an honest view of where we think we could do better. And then when we see, for example, some of us may say, well, I'm not eating the best, I'm not really reading a lot right now and learning about self-help like I told myself I was going to. I'm not calling my friends and my family. I'm kind of isolating. There are so many different ways that we can look into ourselves and say, oh, I can be doing better in these parts of my life. But when we do that, It's really important that we continue to stay aware and monitor that little voice in our head that tells us why we are concerned with performing in this area. Because there's a difference in wanting to perform because you know that your performance will lead to a deeper understanding of the person that you want to be. And it will it will contribute to your growth and your expansion, and that's what life's about. But that's a different feeling than wanting to perform for validation. And I've been saying validation a lot on the channel for the past year, so I do not want it to lose its sense of meaning. Validation is when we want to pull certain emotions out of other people so that we can make ourselves feel good, making sure that we are not trying to perform in order to pull specific emotions out of other people in order to tell ourselves, okay, now that I've gotten that emotion out of them, I am now worthy. Because that is a carrot in front of a horse. It's something that we will keep chasing and never achieve. We don't have the ability to make other people happy. So when we understand that this feeling of I'm not enough, I'm not performing, I'm not measuring up, when we understand that we may be trying to measure up to an image of ourselves that does not exist, whether we created that image or another person created that image, there is such a deep sense of freedom because your reality is your reality and who you are is perfect because who you are is accumulation of everything that you have experienced, and there's no way that you could be anybody else. So if you want to change for yourself, absolutely. I encourage you, I support you. But if you are seeking change for any other reason aside from wanting to deepen your relationship with yourself, that's something that has to be examined and that's something that has to be looked at because that feeling of I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not performing enough, it is not a feeling that will ever go away if our perspective around pleasing other people does not change. If we do not come to an agreement with ourselves that we will live for ourselves, that feeling of I'm not making other people happy will never go away. We have to start living for ourselves if we want that random feeling of dread to dissipate. One of the most freeing things that I've ever learned was that I am allowed to exist within my own experience. And there's a big old period at the end of that sentence. I am allowed to just exist. I don't have to worry about disappointing other people. I don't have to worry about making other people happy. I don't have to worry about any of that. None of that was my responsibility. And none of that was ever my responsibility. A lot of us as children, we had certain emotional responsibilities put on our shoulders. We were expected to act a certain way, maybe so that our parents wouldn't get upset, maybe so that our teachers would respond to us in a certain way, maybe so our family would see us in a certain way. There's a multitude of things that we could explore, but when we get older, that's when it's about stripping away all of this conditioning and understanding that okay, I may have been conditioned to act like this so that my dad could feel like he's a good dad. I may have been conditioned to get good grades so that my parents could be happy with themselves and with me. I may have been conditioned to be perfect. But now that I'm an adult, I don't have to do anything for anyone else. I pay my own bills, you know? So when you understand that you are allowed to just exist within your experience without the responsibility of bringing joy or not disappointing other people, again, there's an immense freedom to that. You are not only to live for yourself within your own experience, your experience includes the people who are in your metaphorical top eight, if you will. I do not know the generation I'm speaking to, but if I'm speaking to millennials, you know what I'm talking about. So your top eight, those are your homies. Those are the people who know you And sometimes people are added to the top eight, sometimes people are removed. It is a lesson in flexibility and honesty. But those people who are in your experience with you, who you trust and who you love, it's not your responsibility to make them happy or to disappoint them or be afraid of disappointing them. It's not your responsibility to worry about those things, but it is your responsibility to love them intimately. We can't love everyone in the world intimately. We don't have enough energy within ourselves to do that. Like, we have to sleep, we have to rest. We don't have enough energy to love everybody in the world intimately. But those people in your top eight, it is your responsibility to love them intimately, not to perform for them, but to be yourself and to have an open heart with them. The only reason I'm bringing up this top eight is because I want to let you know that the people outside of your top eight, their opinions and their feelings and their ideas about you, they do not matter. If someone you do not know says, you have an ugly shirt, it should not cause an emotional reaction. If someone in your top eight says, you have an ugly shirt, okay, it causes an emotional reaction. Why are you talking about my clothes? You didn't buy my clothes. Are you gonna buy me a new shirt? We live in an age where social media has truly blurred the lines of friendship and intimacy with parasocial relationships. And I fear that psychologically and brain chemistry wise, we do not know the difference between someone in our top eight and someone who is not. And that is a big lesson in maturity. We do not have the emotional capacity to be so reactive to every single person's opinion. Our top eight is all that matters. Someone in my top eight says I have an ugly shirt. After I have my emotional reaction, I get to sit down and talk to them and be like, tell me about your sense of style. What do you like? Like, let me see your perspective, because that is someone I love and I want to know them better. But when it comes to the world and a stranger saying I have an ugly shirt, what am I going to do? Become so obsessed with every single person who says I have an ugly shirt and try to please each of these people, even though each of them has a varying different idea of what fashion is? This metaphor has gone off the rails, but I think it's still kind of making sense. And I hope that it does make sense, because when you learn to focus your energy inside of your circle and to let the world just be what it is, just let the world be. You do not have to do anything to save the world. You cannot save the world. And when you learn that your happiness being a priority, when you prioritize your happiness, you being happy changes the world. And that is it. When you are happy and when you learn what works for you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, when you figure all that out, you then become a point of inspiration for the next person who may be struggling to figure that out. But if you do not commit to your own happiness, if you do not commit to your own healing and your own joy, you're here with all these wounds that are bleeding and open, trying to save somebody else, and it's just making a big old mess. I have a plant in my sunroom, and I named her Dominique because she is so sensitive. If she is not watered consistently at the same time, she droops so dramatically. And then I will water her, and an hour later, she will stand right back up, tall as ever, proud as ever, because I gave her a little bit of love. And she just that plant just reminds me so much of myself, because I can be very emotionally dramatic. If something in my external reality goes wrong, I can become so sensitive. I can droop. I can become low energy. But the moment I pray, the moment I go to God, the moment I talk to Him and I am reminded of who I am in Him, I am re energized and I stand right back up. I've been watered, I've been nurtured, and I stand right back up. And when I look at that plant, I'm reminded of how much I've grown because every time your external reality impacts you and you make the choice to go inside instead of trying to change the outside, you grow. There is a subconscious idea that there's only so much growth to be had. One day I will reach the pinnacle of growth and there won't be any more growing to do. And that is just not true. It's just not true. Every time you go inside, every time you talk to God and understand better who you are, there will be growth and it will never stop. And you will keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. There's always more growing to do. And it is sometimes growth that changes what people see on the outside, and sometimes it's growth that really lengthens your roots even more deeply into the earth. No one can see the change, but you know it and you feel it. And that growth is also what creates this barrier, this force field against that dread that we spoke about earlier, against that responsibility that we put on ourselves to be the person that can perform for everyone and make everyone happy. It was never your responsibility and it never will be, but I understand that you might have some conditioning around it. So I want you to know that you might have some triggers and they may come up, but you are worthy of living for yourself. And living for yourself does not mean being selfish and just looking at your own perspective and only caring about your own feelings. Living for yourself means nurturing your life. And those people that are in our experience, they're a part of our lives. So living for yourself also means allowing a portion of you to live for them. Now, there will be people who hurt us. There will be people who maybe didn't belong in the top 8, who didn't deserve that intimacy, that loyalty. That is a whole nother video. That's a whole nother video. But if that happens, you will get through it and you will learn from it, and somebody else will come and it'll be even deeper, more beautiful relationship. That's all I got to say about that. Okay, I've been talking for long enough. How can I pray for you? What can I say to God on your behalf? How can I intercede for you? I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs up so other people on YouTube know that it's valuable. The giving my video a thumbs up helps it with the algorithm and it helps people see that, like, oh hey, people actually dig this. Also, if you would like me to expand on anything that I talked about in the video, let me know in the comments as well. Last but not least, please make sure that you subscribe and that you click that notification bell so that you can be notified when I come out with new videos. I love you so much, but Jesus loves you more. I'll see you next time. Bye.